Tierra del Fuego offers not only many sheep, but beautiful landscapes, a lot of coastline and some very secluded corners. We had planned to drive east over the Chilean part to about half of the island and visit the king penguin colony there before we cross the chain of hills to switch to the Argentine side. This king penguin colony is the only one on Tierra del Fuego. The birds are well protected and can only be seen from far. Despite the distance, we were impressed by the size of the animals and their beautiful markings. But they manage the typical waddle walk just as well as their smaller colleagues. Livestock farming is particularly popular on Tierra del Fuego because of the climate. We have repeatedly seen large flocks of sheep, and as usual, the gauchos, along with their dogs, are driving them from one pasture to the other. One of our biggest dreams should come true: an excursion to the Antarctic. Before we started, we sweetened the waiting time visiting the Beagle Channel. We were so incredibly lucky that we found a last-minute offer, and hence we could actually make the great voyage with one of the ships within 4 days. The large ship anchored in the bays along the Antarctic archipelago, so that we were able to make short trips with the small rubber boats, so-called Zodiacs. We were sometimes allowed to go ashore, strictly controlled and only in small groups. After these excursions, we went back to the ship to warm up. We got super thick warm jackets and pants though, but over time it still gets a little fresh in the eternal ice and on the small boat. But we were very spoiled. We mostly had only a few degrees below zero, so it felt similar to skiing. And of course we saw penguins here too. We had actually seen enough of the little guys on our trip along the coast, but here in this vastness and the snow, it is yet another experience. On top, the birds are also really skillful at climbing over the slippery stones. And they are not bothered by us either. There is a zealous back and forth. Some slide on their bellies, others hurry quickly over the snow. And why the whole thing? They want to get to their buddies as quickly as possible. They always form groups to go on their foraging trips together. Because swimming and diving in a group is simply far less dangerous, as their enemies, the seals, are always around in this area as well. In addition to the wildlife, it is the pack ice and the beautiful blue-colored icebergs and floes that have impressed us so much, and the incredible silence that prevails here. You can't imagine that. It is actually only similar in the desert. This silence is sometimes interrupted by the creaking of the icebergs or the dull rumbling that heralds a small break. The whole thing is very impressive. The days just flew by. We have learned a lot about Antarctica, the ecosystem and wildlife. On the last day, we are spoiled again with the most beautiful weather and enjoy the white splendor to the fullest. we have to say goodbye and take these unique impressions with us forever in our hearts. The nights show beautiful lights and colors. But what happened to us early the next morning when we entered the Drake Passage, it's simply unbelievable. A sailor had seen an entire school of whales on the horizon. The captain turned on immediately and switched off all sonar systems. This left the curious animals free to find out what the big thing was doing in their area. The whales kept swimming around the ship, dipping below and sometimes even pushing the ship a bit. This was a truly unique experience that impressed everyone on board.
There are three. Yeah. Wow. One more.
After more than an hour, they moved on. After the great and probably hard to beat experience in the Antarctic, we set off for the mainland relatively quickly. And again, we were very lucky with the ferry. As if they were just waiting for us, we drove to the port and were able to roll directly onto the ship. And now the second part of Patagonia is waiting for us.